Hello and welcome to Let's Talk Business. I'm Priyanshi Sharma. We'll get you the top news stories from the world of business and economy in the show. Starting with the markets, equity benchmarks declined amid weak global trade as banks and financials declined as well. The headline indices snapped their 4 days of gains and fell the most in 2 weeks. Hiral Dadia joins us with a wrap of all the market action.
Markets did see a good recovery in the last hour of trade, but we continued to trade in the negative and ended in the red zone as well. Clearly, the Sensex fell nearly 350 points and Nifty ended around the 18,500 mark, so slightly above those 18,500 levels. It was mainly Reliance, HDFC Twins as well as Axis Bank. These were the major contributors to the downtick in terms of where markets were concerned, but there was support coming in from the likes of a Kotak Mahindra Bank in trade today. In terms of sectors, metals and banks were a major drag, whereas there was buying that was seen in terms of IT as well as healthcare majors. Though there was that positivity from a stock-specific perspective, but the market breadth was pretty much skewed in favor of the bears in today's session. When we've been talking to analysts as well, what they are indicating is that it's a buy on dips strategy that investors should be accommodating as of now, because the overall underlying tone of the market is still positive, and that continues to be the scenario, and there will be a lot of strength that will be coming in from the bank Nifty, and there are the support levels that the analysts are tracking on Nifty as well as Bank Nifty are pretty much strong. Though we are hitting resistances, but there will be recoveries that will come in shortly. Interesting names that were top gainers today. Bharti Airtel surged almost 7 to 8% in intraday trade and was one of the top gainers. Kotak Mahindra Bank, Britannia, Sun Pharma as well as Tata Motors were few of the other gainers as well. On the losing end, you had the likes of Axis Bank, Reliance Industries, HDFC, Hindalco, as well as ONGC. In fact, if you see in terms of a lot of your OMCs, they were reacting to the crude, the way crude was panning out, which was down under pressure. However, that did have a positive impact on your paint companies. Like Asian Paints did see a good move in today's session. From the newsmakers, Oil India, there was a fire at one of its refinery, and that stock did see some bit of pressure. Vedanta Resources has gone ahead and reduced their gross debt to $6.4 billion. So that counter was in focus as well. HDFC gained the most in over 5 weeks, and this is after Aberdeen sold almost 1.66% stake in HDFC Bank. Coal India board approved 8%, and this was mainly on the back of, they approved an 8% hike in terms of prices, because of which the counter was in focus. Dixon Technologies was up in trade because they proposed a partnership with Xiaomi to make and export mobile phones from India. So that's going to be an interesting one to watch out for from a partnership perspective. On the back of earnings reaction, you have KRBL, which was under pressure on the back of a weak set of numbers that were reported. Wellspun Corp saw smart moves as the profit and revenues beat estimates, and the Q4 guidance that the company and the management has provided has been pretty aggressive, and the management is quite confident of achieving it. Greenply was under pressure after a Q4 miss. Torrent Pharmaceuticals hit a record high as the Q4 profit was a good number, and they're looking at a fundraising plan as well via QIP. Indocount also surged in trade after the profit rose on the demand for bed sheets, it seems, has been increasing. So clearly a lot of newsmakers, a lot of companies that have been reacting to earnings, and it's almost where the earnings season is about to end. But clearly the breadth has been in favor of the bears, but the underlying tone that the analysts are still picking up is that there is positivity in the market, and buy on dips should be the strategy that you should be accommodating. So how the entire week is going to pan out is going to be interesting from here on. Back to you.
Thanks, Hiral, for that. And in the light of uptake in Indian markets led by the foreign investment, portfolio investment inflows, Julius Baer's Mark Matthews shares his outlook on Asian and Indian markets. Listen in.
From the lows of 16,800 about a month and a half back, we've seen a sharp pullback in Indian markets as well. And we've seen serious money coming back after a serious bout of withdrawal. So I'm saying, if I don't look at YTD, but look at quarter to date, then India has been the best performing market arguably in the Asia EM pack, if I'm not wrong, maybe ex-Japan. So, and therefore my question, do you reckon that that momentum can continue? Sure, YTD numbers may not look impressive, but quarter to date, it's been an impressive run. can that continue for India, for some of the other markets?
I mean, I think it should. I like the Indian market, but I'm not sure it will, because I must say, just anecdotally, based on my own discussions with investors, they like listening to the Indian story, but I see very little follow through. They maybe after the roller coaster of the last few years with COVID and Ukraine and markets just up and down like a yo-yo. You want to be feeling, well, at least I know what's Nintendo, what's Sony. Like, these are big brands. I grew up with them. And India, chances are you might not even have visited the country. So it's a much bigger leap of faith, even if the story is a compelling one, as we all know. But people, unless they're feeling quite confident, are usually reluctant to commit capital to something they don't really know very much, or they've never seen firsthand. So I'd like it to keep going up, but I'm not sure it will. I mean, what I would also share anecdotally is that I think where there's a lot more interest in India is more on the foreign direct investment side. There's a lot of multinational companies, as you may know, visiting India, scouting out India, and figuring out how can we come into India.
And foreign portfolio investors with a substantial portion of their investments concentrated in a single Indian company or group will have to make additional disclosures now. The market regulator SEBI has sought more disclosures from FPIs in a bid to boost transparency. Sajaya joins us with more details. We'll get more details on that story in a short while from now, but you will have to shell out more for electricity now. Yes, that's with Coal India hiking the prices of its high-grade coal by 8%, and consumers will likely have to pay around 12 to 18 paise per unit more. This is the first time since 2018 that the country's largest coal miner has revised its coal prices.
Coal India has increased the high-grade coal prices after 5 years, and mostly it has been done in two categories. One for power utilities, IPPs, fertilizer plants, and the other one is for non-coking consuming industries. So this the company has done after 5 years. They had not taken any hike even at the peak of COVID, or during the peak of Ukraine war in September 22, when the prices had gone up as high as $145 per ton. Although since then the prices have come down, they have fallen down to $100. The company was prompted to take this hike mostly because of increase in its employee cost or the wage bill, which has increased by close to 6,000 crore rupees. And analysts believe that the company will be able to meet or offset this by almost 50% from this hike. There is also going to be a cascading impact on power tariffs for mostly the plants which will be using this high-grade coal. And generally the perception is that most of the power plants in India do not use very high-grade coal. It's mostly below 4,200 kilocalorific value. So the impact may not be very high on the power plants. And going ahead, there won't be any steep increase in the prices given the general election is scheduled next year. And for our general audience, I mean, it's easier to understand that coking coal is normally used for production of iron and steel, while non-coking or steam coal or thermal coal is used for the production of power plant or goes into fertilizer plant. Thank you.
And moving on, the government is expected to withhold crucial funding for Anil Agarwal's chip venture. According to a recent Bloomberg report, the joint venture between Vedanta and Taiwan's Foxconn may not receive incentives for the production of 28 nanometer chips. This comes after the venture sought billions in funding, but has reportedly failed to meet the government's specified criteria. Reports also suggest that the project is still in need of a technology partner and a manufacturing grade technology license to proceed with the chip construction. And moving on to the other big story, Patanjali Foods shares edged lower even as Q4 net profit rose. Now, the share of the FMCG business in overall revenues grew exponentially, but margins shrank on a year-on-year basis. And that's the report for Patanjali.
So we have taken, all the, because the commodity, you cannot keep higher prices. It pretty much works on a pass-through basis. So we've taken 2 rounds of cuts, both at the MRP level and the operative price level. And I think right now, for the moment, we are done, at least for next 15 days. But if there's a situation warrants that we need to reduce it further, we'd absolutely will take the price cuts further.
All right. So how much price cuts have you taken so far in this fiscal, in the, FY23?
So very substantial. We've almost dropped our prices by anywhere between 30 to 40 rupees kilo. In terms of between second and third quarter, between third and fourth quarter. And if the prices continue to spike downwards, we are quite happy to take further sort of cuts on that. We will be consistent with the market. We'll reflect the drop in the prices, and we want to be right up there when it comes to giving the best value to the consumers.
That's all we have for you in this edition of Let's Talk Business. Thanks very much for watching.